I've been so focused on who's going to replace Drake Powell that I haven't even stopped to consider, could the Tar Heels already be set?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Happy birthday Eve to my mom. I love you, Cindy Schade. You're the best. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Friday going the right way. Dare I say, kicking off the weekend. Friday doesn't even count as a work day, right? No, come on, let's be real here. Special shout out to all the everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. Coming up on the show today, I said it in the cold open, I do need to stop and consider, could the Tar Heels be set as they are now? I don't think so, but I want to explore it. We got confirmation on Thursday of another non-con scheduling thing. I had already expected it to be what it is, but we got confirmation of it. We got, there's been some updates on Zayden High. We now know some more information from an article from the News and Observer. And then now we're a little worried about another school stealing Bubba Cunningham from us. No, come on. And we get to the weekend whip around, all that coming up. It's going to be a great, fun show for a Friday. Cannot wait to dive in. But here's where I want to start. We've been spending, if you're with the show all the time, you know, I've been looking into all of these different potential replacements for Drake Powell to be Carolina's starting three. And truth be told, I have more lined up in the hopper, and I was planning on doing one of them today. I was deciding between a couple. I'm not even going to reveal it because we're going to save them for next week. But then I started thinking, you know, Isaac, it would be good if at some point we stop to evaluate basically the idea that, yes, I've been vocal that I truly believe Carolina needs another three, assuming that Drake Powell and Ven-Allen Lubin are both gone, right? Let's get that. But I do think it is wise to stop and consider, do you just stick with what you got? Let's do due diligence and explore it. Shall we? Yes, we shall. And again, this all, if Drake Powell comes back, answer solved. If Ven-Allen Lubin comes back, I think that's also a factor in this. Although as of, Friday, May 2nd, I don't think either of those things are likely to happen from all the information gathered and shared with me and all of that. It just seems that neither of those things are going to be reality. Could they? 100%. I don't think they're going to be. Okay. What I would do, basically, like you look at the players currently on the roster for Carolina. And my starting five right now, if nothing changed, would be Kyan Evans at the 1, Seth Trimble at the 2, Jae'lyn Stevenson at the 3, Caleb Wilson at 4, and Henry Vasar at 5. That's what I would do. Stevenson at the 3. If there was let's say Drake Powell was back, or somebody else comes in to play the 3, you've got a position battle between Stevenson and Wilson for the 4. But right now, they don't have to battle because I think you just split them up in the current roster makeup. And then you have that, and in that scenario, your complement, the guys coming off the bench behind those 5, again, Kyan Evans, Seth Trimble, Jae'lyn Stevenson, Caleb Wilson, and Henry Vasar. The complement in the backcourt would be Jonathan Powell, and then the 2 incoming freshmen, Derek Dixon and Isaiah Dennis. I say 2 because we've got the 3rd in the starting lineup already in this scenario. And I like that, right? Like I like what we have there in the backcourt. You've got experience, a year of experience at West Virginia for Jonathan Powell, somebody that's got some good positional size, is going to be able to shoot, going to be able to step in probably to the 3 or the 2. And then Dixon and Dennis, who hopefully at least one of them, if not both, are going to be able to contribute in meaningful ways this season. I really think they can. And then you look at the front court backup complement, and things have been thinned out. Because, again, in this scenario, we're assuming that Ven-Allen Lubin is out the door, And then we're moving another of our front court pieces to the 3, and that's Jaron Stevenson. So behind Stevenson, Wilson, and Vesar, now you're down to just James Brown and Zayden High. I don't believe that is the fullness of the depth you need. I know we've heard that the staff feels like they're in an okay spot with where the front court is right now, but I don't think they would if one of those 5 members, like if you tell me you've got Wilson and Vesar with then Brown, High, and Stevenson, I feel a lot better about that than I do all 3 of those guys in the starting lineup, because it is just not enough depth in my opinion. Oh gosh. And I've also forgotten to add Jaden Young to the backcourt. Man, it's so fresh, right? There's that. So when I look at that depth, it does feel lacking to me, if I'm being honest. And it's the lack in this scenario that I'm looking at is in the front court. And it's not because of the front court, it's because of the lack of somebody else at the 3, because it pulls Stevenson away from the front court to the wing, where he is capable. And in this scenario, Carolina has a monster lineup. What a difference that would be from last year, where there was all the conversation for so long about small ball and trying that out. And, something I pushed for and advocated for, and it didn't work. I don't think I was wrong to recommend it, to suggest, to say, I want to see that. I do think I was wrong in that it didn't work. Not I think I was wrong. I was wrong in that it didn't work. This would be wildly different than that. Kai and Evans, 6'2" at the 1. Seth Trimble, 6'3" at the 2. And then you go 6'11" with Stevenson, 6'9" with Caleb Wilson, and 7 foot with Vesar. That's massive. And then the size behind those guys, you got Jonathan Powell at 6'6", Derek Dixon at 6'3", Isaiah Dennis at 6'5", James Brown at 6'10", Zayden High at 6'9", and I forget how tall Jaden Young is. Let's look in real time here. Virginia Tech basketball roster from last year. Jaden Young is listed at 6'4". That's what I would have guessed if I was guessing a number. So Carolina's got great size with this roster, regardless of who's playing, right? There is going to be no more. The conversation we've had the last 2 seasons about, boy, your starting front court is 6 foot and 6'1" or so with RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau. There's not that concern anymore. It's not massive, right? It's not Duke last year where literally everyone was 6'5" or bigger. Good grief. Which, by the way, they're going to do again. But now Carolina is 6'2", 6'3", and in this scenario, 6'11", 6'9", 7 foot, with nobody under 6'3" coming off the bench. You'll take that. So doing this exercise confirms for me what I've thought, that I do believe that Carolina needs another scholarship, starting level scholarship player at the 3. I'll put it that way. And so I do think we need to continue to look at players we've already talked about, and players that are still out there as possibilities. And there's some other ways to put this. I really appreciated what Bones AW said in our Locked On Tar Heels Discord the other day. By the way, that link is in the show notes. Free to join. We'd love to have you. Quote, "We have a squad with no glaring holes." I agree with that. As in, quote, "Who can possibly play that position?" type holes. Most obvious opportunity for upgrade would be at the 3, at the small forward, as we've been talking about. But we have some guys who can hold it down capably, at least. Less of a dire need like the 5 spot was last year, end quote. And I agree with this. I think what Carolina has already on the roster makes the deficit at the 3 more hideable than the 5 was last year. And so I like that. There's no glaring holes, but there is still need. I think that's well said. EHOF15 on Discord said, quote, "We have a high floor." I agree with that as well, but not a UNC caliber ceiling yet. I love that from EHOF, because I agree. I think the floor is higher than last year's floor because of Vesar at the 5. But it is not a UNC caliber ceiling yet. There's room to grow there. But I like the yet because it says we're not done. We're still looking for more. And Marion, one of our good friends that's a Locked On Tar Heels insider. We'd love for you to join that, by the way, as well. Go even deeper with the show. That link is also in the show notes, one-on-one conversations with me. But Marion said to me the other day in an insider chat, quote, I wonder now if Carolina, should just wait for the draft people to try to get a dynamic one of those, end quote. And this is a possibility I could live with. If Carolina said, hey, we are good as things are right now, but we are committed to getting a dynamic player out of, everybody that pulls out of the NBA draft and anybody else that's floating. It's going to take a money commitment, a financial commitment. I know there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of conversation about who's right and wrong and how much money actually is out there or is not, and what private donors and all of this stuff, whatever. If Carolina could commit to saying, we are going to land somebody once guys start pulling out, because that's the level player you need, is somebody that is in that draft process right now, maybe even including Drake Powell himself, should he pull out. That would be an absolute option. I still think you go get somebody out there right now that's the person you want, because they are starting to get snatched up, right? Like, love Chad Baker-Mazara, the shooting that he would bring to this team and kind of the wild card attitude that he has, right? Like, I think that could have been helpful. He's at USC. Andrei Stojakovic, I think, would have been a great option as well. Obviously, he's off at Illinois. Yesterday, we talked about Dame Sarr. Yes, there are other schools looking at him, but like Illinois, Duke, probably out on him. And I believe Kansas and somebody else is looking at him. We got more at Rylan Griffin from Alabama. I want to talk about him Monday or Tuesday. There's another international prospect that has kind of come to light on Thursday. And so a lot more to talk about, but I do like Marion's idea to think about, are there guys in the draft that end up pulling out that we could snatch? Very much so. Now, whoever comes together for this roster, they're going to be playing in Atlanta, Georgia in December in this year's CBS Sports Classic. Got an interesting wrinkle with that tossed into the flames on Thursday. We'll look at that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, you're in HVAC, you're in electrical work, Supply House has got you covered, man. It's the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is jam-packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? No problem. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Check it all out at supplyhouse.com. Thursday brought both scheduling confirmation and a very interesting wrinkle to an event that Carolina is part of. First, let's talk about the wrinkle, because it's not specifically Carolina related, but it is interesting. The CBS Sports Classic has been going since the 2014-15 season, first played in December of 2014. So over a decade. This is actually going to be the 12th CBS Sports Classic. By the way, you know who has the best percentage record in this event? Not Kentucky, not Ohio State, and certainly not UCLA. It's the Tar Heels. Take that. Although Carolina is, I think, just 1-4 against Kentucky, but they're undefeated against both Ohio State and UCLA. Well, they will forever, it seems like, stay undefeated against UCLA because UCLA is no longer part of this event. We knew that reality was going to come at some point, because now that UCLA is in the Big Ten, you can't have two Big Ten entities in this event. That wasn't going to be an issue till next season, though, so I assumed that we would keep all these teams in and then replace Ohio State or UCLA with a Big 12 or Big East team, because you've already got SEC in both in Kentucky, SEC, ACC obviously in Carolina, and then Big 10 with both Ohio State and UCLA. I did figure UCLA would be the team that would eventually be out, since they were the conference switchers in this group. But then that leaves the Big 12 and the Big East as the power conferences to draw from. And so I expected to get somebody from there, but I did not think it would be St. John's. And that's exactly who it is. Very interesting stuff. But I love it because this year Kentucky was slated to play UCLA. And now Kentucky instead is going to play St. John's, which means that Rick Pitino is going up against not only the team that he coached, but the young man who was the captain of his first national championship, Mark Pope, who's now the head coach at Kentucky. They did a really neat video together on Thursday just saying, hey, this is awesome. Now we're going to coach against each other. That's fun, man. I love those kind of stories in sports. It's going to be a lot of fun, and glad they're going to be part of it. UCLA, though, steps out not because of the conference conflict of interest, but because they're tired of traveling across the country, because it was announced that this event is going to be in Atlanta this year. We didn't know where it was going to be held yet. And you might recall last year, Mick Cronin was frustrated about how many times he was seeing the Statue of Liberty. You should go back and find the quote. It's hilarious. And so they're saying, hey, we want to opt out and play another game in Poly Pavilion at home. And honestly, I can't blame them. These West Coast schools, man, it's so much travel for UCLA, for USC, for Oregon, for Washington and the Big Ten, and then obviously for Cal and Stanford in our league. And so, man, crazy stuff there. But because of all this confirmation that we also got confirmation on Carolina's scheduling. Now, for those of you, by the way, who are part of this show all the time, but in particular the insiders, you already had access to this because I just keep very close tabs on scheduling, know how historical precedent works. And so I had already suggested that Carolina would be playing this event on December 20th and that they would be playing Ohio State. You already knew that, but now it's confirmed. And until it's confirmed, we don't for sure know it. In fact, I'll say more about that in a second about something else. But what we didn't know and what we weren't sure of was the location. And now we know that that's going to be in Atlanta. So mark your calendars, Saturday, December 20th, Atlanta, State Farm Arena, St. John's versus Kentucky, and Carolina versus Ohio State. Again, the Tar Heels have never lost to the Buckeyes in this event, and we hope that they don't again this year. Going to be a lot of fun to have St. John's in it. But what I'm curious to see is, there had never been a change in the teams, the programs in this event. Will St. John's now be a long-term member, or are they just a one-off to be able to play Kentucky? Because I don't know that St. John's are they still going to be good when Pitino retires in 2-3 years, however long that is? I don't know, maybe. So we'll have to see on that. But I would rather, since you got the Big 12 and the Big East at your disposal, go after like UConn or Kansas or Arizona or Houston, somebody like that, man. I just think that would be a better option. And honestly, I wish UCLA was staying in and it was Ohio State that was leaving, but whatever, we'll take it. Now, here's what that means for Carolina in their non-conference schedule. I've been talking about how we essentially know almost everything that is part of Carolina's non-con schedule. We know that there are 20 ACC games. Yes, I hear you freaking out as I say it. I'm going to talk about it in just a second, but 11 non-con games because you can play 31 regular season games. And so we knew definitive information about date and opponent and location for 9 of the 11 with my best guesses for the other 2. Well, now we have that 10th confirmation. And so we have date, opponent, and location for 10 of Carolina's 11 non-con games, plus some strong possibilities for that 11th. So if you're watching on YouTube, I've pulled this schedule up. If you're listening to this, you can come back and watch it on YouTube or join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders and see it there. But schedule tipping off Monday, November 3rd against Central Arkansas in Chapel Hill. Tuesday, November 11th against Radford in Chapel Hill. That Friday, the 14th at home against Kansas. And then Tuesday, the 18th at home against Navy. So the first 4 games of the season, all in Chapel Hill. That'll be great. And then Carolina will head on Thanksgiving week down to Fort Myers for the Fort Myers tip-off. Those games will be Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday is St. Bonaventure. Thursday is Michigan State. I love that it's not a multi-team event that runs through Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing, just like last year where it's basically done by Thanksgiving, because that gives you plenty of turnaround then before you go play the ACC SEC challenge, where a couple years ago when Carolina had to just go straight from the West Coast to Indiana, they had nothing and they got smashed. And so I thought it was a lot better this year getting back from Maui earlier in the week to get ready for Bama, even though Carolina lost, or the year before getting back from Battle for Atlantis earlier to prepare for Tennessee coming in. So that ACC SEC challenge, this is the one that we don't know about. However, my best guesses are that event, Carolina will play either Tuesday, December 2nd or Wednesday, December 3rd, and it will be on the road. Got a couple guesses of who that could be. It could be Kentucky, since Carolina won't play them in CBS Sports Classic. Could be Auburn, would be an interesting opponent. Arkansas would be really interesting as well. Wouldn't be shocked if it was one of those three. Could expand beyond that, but any of those would make sense. And then after that, I think that weekend is when we will see an ACC game slide in there somewhere. Then Saturday, December 13th at home against USC Upstate. Then Monday, the 22nd. And I've actually got these out of order now. I'm seeing Monday, the 22nd against East Carolina at home. And in between those two would actually be Ohio State in Atlanta. And you know what? I said we had date, opponent, and location for all 11 of those. We don't have the date yet for NC Central, but that'll be at home. And that could factor in several different places, maybe in that first week where there's an 8-day gap. But the one other thing I do need to remind us about this quickly is that a new wrinkle we learned this week is that the ACC is going to be voting to reduce ACC conference games from 20 down to 18. If that passes, it will go into effect this year is what we're being told. And that would mean 2 more of these non-con games getting it back to 13 instead of 11. So keep your eyes out for that. As we hear and learn more, I'll certainly update us all on that. The other thing I just want to mention before we move on, there's been so much conversation about Zayden High. Is he on the team? Is he not going to be on the team? What happened? What went on behind the scenes? Why aren't we hearing stuff? Why is it kind of under the radar? What's going on here? There's been so much discussion, and my sources have told me all along that the plan was that Zayden would be back on the team, and that then as those conversations have happened is that he is on the team, and it's being confirmed now, more publicly so. But News and Observer came out with a more very in-depth article going into a whole bunch of stuff, explaining what happened, explaining what's been going on, all of that. There's a whole bunch of conversation about it and taking sides. I don't want to get into any of that, man. I just want to make you aware of it, because if you would like to learn more, that's a place where you can do that. All right. And we're just going to leave that there and not try to adjudicate that here on the show. I just don't think that's wise of us. So I'll just leave it at that. Michigan State fired their athletic director on Thursday. Cool, Isaac. So what? Why are you telling us? Well, it could mean something bad for Carolina, losing our own AD. We'll get to that in the weekend whip around coming up in just a second. Michigan State on Thursday announced that they were firing their athletic director, Alan Haller. Haller? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I apologize. And so, as I said, why do you bring this up, Isaac? Well, Tom Izzo and Deputy AD Jennifer Smith are going to be the co-interim athletic directors for now. But it is expected from Michigan State that they will begin a search in earnest here coming pretty soon. Alan Haller will be stay on through May 11th. So they, what is that? 9 days from now. I bring this up to speculate on something. This is total speculation, total conjecture on my part. I have heard absolutely nothing. I've heard nothing about a list of candidates or hopes or anything like that. But I will say that we need to ready ourselves that Bubba Cunningham could be a strong candidate for this role and leaving to go to East Lansing. This is just me putting some pieces together. You ready? I'll give you 3 specific things. Number 1, former UNC president Kevin Guskowitz, who is an athletics guy, is now the president at Michigan State. You might remember he left to go up there recently. So that connection is already there. Bubba was obviously the AD under Chancellor Guskowitz's leadership as the president. Number 2, Bubba Cunningham, you might or might not know this, is from Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan is basically 50 minutes northeast of East Lansing, of the Breslin Center, where Michigan State plays basketball. I Googled it. Yes, I Google Mapped it because that's what I do. And the third thing I'll mention is that Bubba is an alum of Notre Dame, and South Bend is basically 2.5 hours southwest of the Breslin Center. So Bubba served as AD under Michigan State's president. Bubba grew up less than an hour away from the Breslin Center, and Bubba went to school 2.5 hours southwest of the Breslin Center. There's a world in which Bubba wants to go home. You know, it's like, I'm kind of tired of all this Jordan Hudson mess. And, you know, things were kind of weird with the hire of Bill Belichick, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. All right. I'm just speaking hypotheticals of what could be going on in Bubba's mind. And so, you know, we went through all sorts of stuff that we've been through here at North Carolina. I've been accused of collusion because North Carolina was in the NCAA tournament and I got a bonus. I'm just done with all that, and I'd like to restart. That's a narrative I could see being in his head. I'd like to go home. It's not like he's just going anywhere. He'd get to go home. And home is a place that often has a pull. I don't know if it does for him because I'm not in Bubba's head. But there's a real world in which that happens. That would be sad because I think Bubba is a great AD. Carolina's athletic department continues to flourish. And I mean, just look at the landscape of what we're about to talk about with spring athletics, man. There's just so many wildly competitive teams. It's great stuff. I'd hate to lose him, but I'd understand it if he wants to go home. I wouldn't like it, but I'd understand it. All right, here we go. Weekend whip around. It is a bit of a quieter weekend before we kind of hit the storm of some more ACC and NCAA tournament action coming up soon. Baseball won twice this week against George Mason, beat them 13-4 on Tuesday, and Queens beat them 14-3 in 8 innings on Wednesday with a walk-off. 14-3 walk-off. Well, they run rolled them. They mercy rolled them with a walk-off 2-run shot. I love it. Diamond Heels are now 35-10 overall, 15-9 in ACC play. They are off this weekend, much needed. They will face Campbell, the Fighting Camels, on Tuesday, and then back to ACC play next weekend, hosting NC State. Make your plans right now. The Bosch has to be bumping. The Wolfpack are feeling themselves, and we got to get to that. Softball also off this weekend. They start the ACC tournament next week. Still not certainty on the seeding yet because there are other teams that are in action this weekend. Women's tennis, the NCAA tournament starts today. So while there is a lot of quiet action, the ladies are getting going. First off, it's kind of like baseball where there's a regional 4 teams in it. At 1 p.m. today, Kansas, South Carolina square off. And then at 4 p.m. or at some point after that, it often runs long, Carolina against VCU. Those 2 winners will square off on Saturday, and the winner of that is off to the Super Regional later on. Men's tennis, unfortunately, is done. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. Lacrosse teams, they're both still going. Obviously, the women's team is number 1 in the nation. The selection show is this weekend on Sunday for the NCAA tournament. The Tar Heels should be number 1 overall, having now beaten Boston College twice this year. The NCAA tournament will start next Friday, so be ready for that. We'll talk about the results of the selection show on the Monday show. Men's lacrosse, their ACC tournament semifinal is tonight. They haven't done anything really to get there yet because there's only 4 teams in the ACC. But Carolina will play Duke tonight, 8 p.m. on ACC Network. Carolina won in Durham in the regular season 8-7, so that's encouraging. Should Carolina win, the championship would be Sunday at noon, also on ACC Network. Women's golf, the regional starts Monday in Norman, Oklahoma, so get ready for that. Pretty close to me. Actually, maybe I should go and cause a ruckus. Men's golf, the NCAA tournament field will be revealed next Wednesday. It was revealed last Wednesday. I'm getting all my stuff mixed up in my head here. Carolina is the 2 seed in the Urbana, Illinois regional, hosted by the Fighting Illini. It's at Atkins Golf Club. Oklahoma State is the top seed in this region. And the event doesn't start till May 12th. So I'll tell you more about it when we get there, what Carolina has to do to advance and all of that kind of stuff. Track and field has the Duke Twilight on Sunday. We'll get ready for that. And then rowing has a bit of a break before their ACC championships coming up as well. So Again, not as much going on, but there is some postseason-y type stuff going on this weekend. Really excited to cheer on the Tar Heels women's tennis. Remember, in action today, men's lacrosse in action against Duke tonight. Got to cheer on both of those teams. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Another great week on the show. Lots of fun. As I said, Monday, we'll get back to looking at some prospects that could be the guy to fill out that small forward position for Carolina. I'm excited to talk about that, have you interact with it. I just find a lot of fun in like, who's it going to be, right? Somebody commented on Thursday's show, Isaac's out here like a kid opening Christmas presents. Like, ooh, like it's just fun for me. I enjoy the chase and I enjoy thinking about possibilities. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Thanks so much for being with us. If you've not subscribed to Locked on Tar Heels on YouTube and audio, make sure you do that right now so you don't miss a second of the show. If you've not joined Locked on Tar Heels Discord, man, we'd love to have you there. That link is in the show notes. Free to join. Great stuff. Locked on Tar Heels Discord. Insider program. Again, go deeper with the program and chat one-on-one with me. You get access to all of my charts and record books and stuff like that non-con schedule. And I'm filling all that out and sharing it there. You also get some other perks too, like priority on mailbag questions and stuff like that. That link's in the show notes. I would love to have you. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be back with you Monday unless there's big breaking news. But until then, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heels. Peace.